Hey, welcome to the Treehouse Athenaeum. We're really excited you could join us today. Take a seat or maybe a walk as we jump into some topics you probably wondered about. From deciphering dreams to following your wildest intuitive hits, we've definitely got something for you. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Treehouse Athenaeum. I'm here with Jen today, and we are going to talk about coaching. One of the services that the Treehouse wants to offer in the near future is working with different practitioners, from different modalities and backgrounds and disciplines. And so I thought today would be a great day. We hear this term like life coaching is the buzzword, and for a lot of us, especially those of us who coach, it's kind of got an ick factor, right? But
Yeah.
why and where does that come from? And so I kind of wanted to flush this out a little, like each of us are going to be offering that space to work with people who are open to it. And so I kind of want to build on that and just introduce yourself. So how long have you been doing this? You're the wealth of knowledge in this group. You were the veteran, right? You've seen the beaches of Normandy. So
Thanks. I do have that authority in the group. Um, um, so this has really been a lifelong mission for me. I probably could be so bold just to say I came out the womb a coach, because I really did, even though the coaching field is I'm experiencing it now didn't exist. I've been really kind of evolving and creating it as I'm going. Before I get into how long I've been in this, though, I do want to piggyback on something you offered there, Dave, and as far as what Treehouse Athenaeum is looking to do.
yeah.
And this goes along with this conversation. There's quite literally one of the beautiful things about the coaching field is there's literally a coach for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as each of us, the four of us that are starting this, and then as other practitioners join the platform as we get things set up, there's also in many ways an opportunity for each of those individual practitioners to coach based on whatever modality they're using.
Big
Not
time, yeah.
everybody does it, but I know I've worked with different practitioners that I'm like, man, I wish I could talk to you again. And then they're like, well, you can get private sessions with me, right? And then we talk around that modality. So that in itself is a form of coaching too. I just wanted to throw that out because coaching is it's not a well-defined field,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people are like, I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is. As recent as 5 years ago, everybody thought like, well, like, do you have a basketball team or something? It's
Right.
like,
Right.
no, it's not a sport.
Which is a good thing and a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it does allow space for everyone. Like, say you work with energy and you have something very unique and you talk to spirit, or say you've gone to school for, it just allows for a lot of space. But because of that, people are like, well, what the hell is it though? Like, and how do you know? And then where's that quality control come in too, of like, how do I know
Yeah.
this is someone worth investing in, or having invest in me? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as our conversation evolves, I know we're going to touch on this stuff. So I'll come back to your original question, and thank you for working with me and kind of fluttering around and stuff in my communication. So I really have been a lifelong coach. Going back as far as even junior high, I would often see a need to support people in becoming something they didn't even really see for themselves. I mean, that's where my vision was often going, or seeing, well, how come these people don't have access to something that these people have access to? And do they even know it? And then seriously in junior high, having conversations like around AP classes, like, why aren't you in these things? You're brilliant. And like, well, I don't have access to it. It's like, why do you think you don't have access to it? And then I started realizing there was a lot of mindset and or cultural teaching around a lot of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, we got it. So I partnered with my school counselor at that time and started putting some things together. So it started early is the short of this.
You partnered with your school counselor. That's that.
Yes.
Yes, it was in your blood.
Yeah. I went to him and said, this is a problem. And he said, wow, that is a problem. Let's figure it out. And he helped me figure it out. He was amazing. So shout out Mr. Whalen. That's my guy. Yeah. So yeah, as far as how coaching has evolved, I ended up going to college as a psychology, sociology major with a minor in criminology. And I took some business classes too, because I was like, I'm going to need to know how to run this stuff, the entrepreneur in me at some point. And it hit it, like the curiosity piece was there. But I ultimately ended up not going down the psychology route because I had really good advisors at the time too, who were like, well, it is a really diagnostic field. And I'm like, that's kind of putting people in a box,
Yeah.
right? Life of people change. And it's not, the diagnostics can't be helpful. They certainly can. But I didn't want to talk to a person simply based on a diagnosis. I wanted to talk to a person based on where they were at any given time.
Hmm.
And so again, I just kept studying and doing my own stuff and building upon the educational pieces while seeking other books and learnings and seminars, and just kept building upon where my curiosity was taking
Yeah.
me. Um, and then fast forward, I really was looking. I really was looking for more of a specific. I don't even know if I used the word coaching yet. But I ended up finding what was called a spiritual life coaching program here in Maryland. I was living in Colorado at the time, and I came out for a weekend seminar, wanting to explore the program. I ended up signing up. It was a 2-year program, and I loved it. Like, it was great. It really like spoke more to meeting the person where they were and what they were experiencing at that moment, and being able to see what's possible and helping them build into that. It wasn't just simply looking in the past. It was really like helping a person. If you're digging in the past, which is a big coaching piece, is being familiar with what about your past is affecting you now, and then
Yeah.
making a change going forward. Um, but calling myself a spiritual life coach didn't feel right either. I'm like, there's a part of me that's very intuitive and spiritual. There's a part of me that's incredibly logic.
Yeah.
And
Empirical,
yeah,
logical. Hmm.
so my coach, we used to team up with your classmates, and you'd have like a coach-coachee relationship, and you'd flip back and forth. And my teammate at the time, it's funny, I found these tapes last year, like 20 years old. And I was like, I can't call myself a spiritual life coach. I'm a transformation coach. And she's like, well, then just call yourself that. Like,
Mm.
right. Um, so that's really where I started, like probably putting the stake in the ground, was in my late 20s of, this is it. And
Can we,
here's
real quick,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, can we get to that? That's really interesting that
Yeah.
you had made that differentiation even then. Like, talk to that a little, like transformational versus like the life coach or spiritual coach. Where do you see the difference? And like, explain that a little more. Like, why did that not resonate? Why didn't you want to claim that title?
Well, I'm really focused on people's being and their inside, which is much more aligned with spiritual life coaching versus their doing, how they're performing, how they're showing up in the world.
Like career coaching, or like I want to get to this next level and X,
Yeah, I have
Y.
a goal
Okay,
I want to meet. How do I
got you.
do there? How do I get there? Right. And
Being
here's
versus
a real
doing.
simplified way to, like, I started realizing that not just for myself, but other people, that despite doing our best, right, a lot of us were still pretty miserable. And
Yeah,
it made me really curious, like, why am I killing it? I'm getting all sorts of accolades. People are
even after
really
obtaining the
proud of me.
goal. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not really satisfied with my life at
Mm.
all. And again, you know, one of the principles that I really appreciated going through that spiritual life coaching program is a lot of people going through it, that the principle was, you are your first client, right?
Oh,
As
I
a
love that.
coach, you coach yourself first. If you're
Yeah.
not mastering yourself, how in the world are you going to show it for other people?
Yeah.
Right.
Like life coaching, so transformational will focus more on the individual and like the arc of your life, right? The growth, the overall growth as an
Yeah.
individual being, rather than I want to get, I want to have a better job, or I want to find a mate, or like, heal my marriage kind of thing. If you are a
Yeah.
better individual being, that's going to affect and ripple into all aspects of your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Transformative. Yeah.
So I noticed this, but I'm not the only person who noticed this. There's all sorts of sociological and psychological studies out there about the efficacy of different types of approaches,
Yeah, for
how
sure.
someone will come in, they'll feel better, they'll start to do better. And it's typically somewhere between 8 and 12 months later, the
Hmm.
person's coming back in. If they haven't done something transformative in themselves, they can achieve a thing for a while, right?
Gotcha.
But I feel the same way. I haven't really made any changes in my life, right? We start to, say like, well, how come these people keep repeating things? People aren't stupid. They just
Yeah.
need support and figuring out what's the thing to transform, to actually get over this hump, to stop repeating the cycle.
Because we're made of
Yeah.
patterns, right? We are pattern creatures. Like,
Yeah.
we'll always come back to it if we don't
Yeah.
evolve past it.
Repetition is the mother of learning for humans. I don't
I
know
love that.
how that little thing got clicked in us, but it is a real thing. It's a real
Yeah. The mother, you said repetition is the mother of what?
of learning.
Of learning. Yeah. It's true.
We all want to get it on the first shot,
You'll
but
get it one way or another.
Steph Curry didn't become Steph Curry because he just took a shot and said, "Oh wow, I'm different." He knew
Yeah.
he was different, but he had to practice in getting that shot, and he changed his game. Did he change the game?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Repetition.
And I think there's something in that piece too, like you were saying, it takes 8 to 12. It takes the work, and a lot of us, we think by going to a few sessions or whatever, that showing up a few times, it may plant the seed and it may get us thinking, but it's the work, the continual showing up, coming back to it. That's where
Yeah.
the real change happens. Those micro shifts that add up over time. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those little
Okay.
steps over time,
Okay,
definitely.
so
Yeah.
you knew you didn't want to be a spiritual life coach, but then where'd you go from there? You said you got your schooling, but how did you find your avenue, your vein? How did that happen and come to be?
What do you mean?
Like
Like when
how did you find your path? Like what you said you did this program. Was that program that's what changed you and that was the what set you on the course? Or
no, I was already on course. I
yeah,
would say what got me on my path is I just kept being curious about where
yeah,
this is going. As a transformation coach, my life has been transforming as I've been going here. Right?
mhm,
Like I it's taken me my entire lifetime. I'm 51 now. I thought I was gonna be at this level of my life like 30 years ago.
yeah,
And in many ways I was, but quite frankly, for me, I'm realizing this is my story. This might not be everybody's story because I'm watching these generations come behind us and they have access to being in their emotions and being in their inner selves in ways that our generation and certainly the generations before us didn't have,
yeah,
right? So who knows how much, more rapid that evolution will be for them. But it's literally taken me a lifetime to develop like the wisdom, the expertise, the knowing, the experience, the experiences, right? Like
yeah,
so many times sharing and coaching is a sensitive thing because just because it happened for me this way doesn't mean it happened for you, right? But there's so many times that I will go through a thing and I know that it's not just for me. I'm like, somebody's gonna need it, and I'll literally hear it sometimes, like, this isn't just for you. I
oh,
needed
I love
you
that.
to go through this because you're gonna have clients, and then someone will be saying, saying something in a session, that little memory will come back, and I'll be like, "Do you mind if I share this story? I think this
Mhm,
might be helpful." Right? So it's
yeah,
as a transformation coach, like that. It's still my path. Like it's an evolving piece. It's in my DNA. It's in my planetary DNA. It's who I incarnated to be, which is
what
an
you came to
important
do.
distinguishment for coaches, right? Like earlier we were talking about the life coaching piece and even like the different modalities and being able to coach. Um, we really coach from where we know and where we have the experience and the expertise, right?
Yeah,
I love diving into things that are health related and how health affects our coaching, our not our coaching, but our being and how we're able to show up in this world. That's been a big piece of my life and my life story. I love understanding how the brain and processing works. It's been a debilitating thing, as you hear in my speech sometimes, like I
mm,
stutter over words. There's been a lot of reasons that it's challenging for me to actually process and get things out. So I'm like, how's processing? How's the brain affecting? And I came across this seminar like 4 or 5 years ago with Dr. Daniel Amen, talked about this controversial, to me, it felt controversial, is The End of Mental Illness, is this book that he put out.
mm.
I was like, okay, that's bold.
Yeah,
And then I
right.
go learn, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
But even changing the terminology around it, like so I'm just saying this, like you're asking, like, how did I get on this avenue? Like I just pay attention as life's evolving and I'm evolving and the world around me is evolving. What's important to pull in that I know is not only going to help me, but help the people that I meet with.
Yeah.
Transformation it is a long term game, right? This is turning the ship. It's not turning a speedboat.
Yeah.
So yeah, this
No, I think there's some really good nuggets that you just put there too. For coaches, yes, but also people, I think it's an affirmation of just trusting your experience, what you're going through. Everything is connected. I always think of this the Vedic principle of Indra's web in like Hindu mythology.
Mhm.
Your strand is attached to everyone else's strand, and when you pull and pluck on that, it plucks and it vibrates like a ripple in a pond, right?
Yeah,
Like you won't know the full impact of your light until you're on the other side or until you do that life review or
Yeah.
One light lights another. And I think regardless of what your journey is significant because it is like others, you know what I mean? And it will inspire others.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it was being, queer, growing up queer and just being a gay man. That is going to have a different resonance and availability for me to reach and impact people just
Yeah.
by being that, let alone being in the church, and etc.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great encouragement for people who are thinking of, I feel like I have something to offer. I feel like whether I want to be a coach or maybe just offer my giftings, like maybe, I do something really well, or I have a very specific insight that I know will talk to others.
Yeah.
Trust it, right? Go with it.
Yeah.
Then what'd you say? Nurture it. You know what I mean? That's where you find what you're supposed to be doing and how you make the world better, right? Be of
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Be,
that.
being intensely curious about how we're showing up and why we're showing up the way we are.
Why we're showing up. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a coach, wow. But like you
Yeah.
just said, for you, what power is that? Like you diving into that for yourself and resonating that out to the world. Those people are looking for you because you've chosen to go down that path, to learn those lessons, to gain that wisdom, and then to support them in learning how to to sow that in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Show up for themselves. I
Yeah.
love this. Okay. So, go ahead. Did you have something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you were talking, it just hit me. There really is more to this story about how I got to transformation coaching. I could actually hear our other partner Lisa being like, "Come on, Jen, you spent 2 years like going under the radar with my business before I came out and said this is the kind of coaching I am and what I'm doing." Because I've done a lot of other. I've done executive coaching, I've done career coaching, I've done
What's the
more
difference? Can
lifestyle
you
type.
talk a little about this? What's the difference between those?
Yeah. So in my more like executive career, I did spend a lot of time coaching people at different levels. Well, and this even goes back before then. I worked in a
These are
prison.
like business seminars and like how to get to
Now this is really
hire up
helping people
people.
align like where did they want to go with their careers,
Yeah.
all the
Okay.
way up to helping businesses understand where do they want to take their next level with their business, both as the organization and then the people within the organization.
Okay.
Um, and I'm really good at it, and I liked it a lot. But it was also a lot of like the transformation piece. So I will say this around career coaching specifically, there were so many times that, and I would infuse transformation coaching in it, but people are like, I want this job, I want to make this money, I want to live in this kind of house, I want to work for this kind of company and have this kind of reputation, right? I said, okay, well, let's talk about how your skills and your personality and those things, like, supporting them and becoming whatever was aware of themselves to align with the companies that were looking for a person like them.
That's okay.
Great. There were people who would often call me back. This happens so often. Man, I got the thing. I'm not really that happy. I've been here for a year. I think I want to change jobs again.
What I thought I wanted wasn't what I
Right.
needed. Yeah.
Right. And we all, right? Especially, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I certainly, like, as living in this country, right? It's like the goal is to grow up and have a family, have kids, maybe a couple pets, white picket fence, right? This
Mhm.
real box like thinking. And wherever we grew up culturally, community wise, education wise, right? Most of us are trying, many of us, maybe not most, many of us are trying to go down that path. And so it would often bring back this conversation of, well, why do you think you keep going for this job that never makes you happy?
Yeah.
Right. And
What's
long story
motivated?
short, like, even though I could help people get, right, whatever they needed to make the leap, there was really a small percentage of people who were really like going within and saying, this is what I want. And watching those people flourish in their lives and careers, because it wasn't just about getting the job that was best suited for them. I would see how it would affect their families and just their total life, whether they traveled or whether they prefer to stay home, like whatever made them happy. Right.
Yeah.
So when I resigned from my last job and went ahead and launched my company, um, I spent some time. I was like, I'm really good at this, and people are still calling me for it. And the universe tested me. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I started
Always.
getting calls. Hey, can you help me with this resume and help me figure out how to get to this next job? And I need some advice on this. Hey, I don't give advice. Okay, but I love having these conversations with you. So we talk through the thing, and I was like, this is great, but these people keep calling me back, and I wasn't mad at them. I was just frustrated with the repetition,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Okay.
And I was like, this is making me unhappy because I want to see people actually live the lives that they want. So it's like, yeah, the people that I'm most effectively working with are the people who are willing to like do that deep dive within, right? And sometimes a 3 foot deep dive is enough. But some people like need to go to the core, like the center of their universe, to figure out like this is why this insanity keeps showing up in my life. That truly brings me joy, right?
Mm,
Which makes me show up more powerfully for the clients that I work.
yeah. It's more
So
like you
I want
feel
to
more
offer that
authentic in
to
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I want to offer that to future coaches. If there's and I have other coach colleagues that are like have been like muddling their way through to figure out, you know, who are the people that I really like am going to resonate the most with. And it's been really beautiful watching folks figure that out versus just like I know I there's a technique to coaching that you can have a conversation with anybody and be really effective at it, right? And as a business and as a life, I want to resonate with the people that you really want to work with and vice versa.
You want to know what you're
Yeah.
doing is actually, yeah. And then to see, I think that's one of the most fulfilling things about stepping into this. If you feel you're drawn to like help people, if people seek you out for that, to actually see the transformation, the change in their lives, the abundance and the happiness and just the fulfillment that they
Yeah.
get at living at a new level, a new version of themselves. That's powerful. You
Yeah.
sleep better at night knowing that. Yeah, it means something. It's
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said, Lisa, at the beginning of your career, that's what you were talking about, though.
At the beginning of launching Undimmed.
Gotcha.
So when I launched it, I was primarily doing transformation
Undimmed is
coaching.
your personal business,
Yeah, that's
right?
my
Yep.
personal, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's the transformation coaching. Yeah. And as a quick aside note, part of what I'm contributing with the Treehouse is adding the astrology piece on it. And that was a little unclear. Like astrology
And that's pretty recent, right? Like this is
is
a newer
very
undertaking.
recent. Yeah, it's 14, 16 months into it. But
And
but it feels like 8 years with the way that I ended up doing a deep
it's
dive.
heavy stuff, isn't it?
Well, it's
Yeah.
heavy. And then I went through a period where I was like, this can't be this real. This can't be.
Mm.
And especially because I grew up with like my experience of astrology has been more like the Sunday horoscope type
Yeah.
version of it. And some of it fit, but a lot of it
Pop
felt really
culture fad
fluffy.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt really trendy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as I started understanding evolutionary astrology, and then me being me, there's an inner rebel in me that questions everything before I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, that's real, right? And I spent like 2 months trying to disprove what was feeling like, and the more I tried to disprove it, I'm like, oh man, this is even it's proving itself. So then I was spending like 2, 4, 6, 8, sometimes 10 hours just diving in every day. Like it literally is
You're
another job for
determined.
me. I spend
Yeah.
that much time on it every week because
Mhm.
it's the universe. I'm learning it.
Yeah.
But the reason that to bring it back to coaching now and why it's been so relevant is the exacting nature of looking at the charts and seeing what's going on with the planets and the evolutionary purposes of those has only made transformation coaching that much for me and the clients that have opted into it that much more powerful.
Yeah.
Where
Potent. Yeah.
you and I could sit here and have a conversation and be like, why does this thing feel so tough between us? Like, what's going on here? And then I can look at a chart and be like, oh, we're dealing with this little opposition here, Dave. Like, this is a
Yeah.
little challenge for us,
I
right?
guess this is a
Yeah.
good point to like, if you
Yeah.
don't have any frame of reference for this too, like the idea behind evolutionary astrology is there there are influences, right? Energies
Yeah.
at play and that affect our growth and affect how we navigate the world, right?
Yeah.
This life. And if we can lean into these energies, these phases, these seasons. I like the app called The Pattern. That's one I use all
That's a
the
good one
time.
too. Yeah.
Just because it highlights this, but uses like psychology to break it down to maybe not like what the universal like aspects and everything, but you may be feeling a little more like this lately and
Yeah.
lean into it, journal about it, explore it. Curiosity, right? It's always
Yeah.
curiosity because it's going to unlock certain things within you in those subconscious depths,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I want to do a shout out to my mentor in the app that he developed with his mentor called Leela. And the reason they call it Leela is because it means the divine dance. And
Mm.
that even if you strip astrology away, right? I know people are like, I don't believe in that. It's like
And
you
the
don't have to
Play-Doh,
believe
I
in it
get
for it
it.
to be real.
Beautiful metaphor.
We're
Yeah.
still dealing with a divine dance here. So whether we want to look at that. So just to bring it back, let's go ahead and take the astrology part of the conversation, just get back to
Yeah.
coaching. we all have these energies welling up in us at any given moment. And to be curious about what that is and how it's affecting me and how I can choose in that moment, right? For each of us
Because
to
it's
be
all
able to do
choice.
that.
It's all
It's
free will. Yeah. Mhm.
at the end of the day, we don't have to we don't get to choose what's going on around us, right?
Mhm.
We do get to choose how we respond to it and
Yeah.
how we live within it or around it or get out of it or whatever choice we
Mhm.
make in that. So yeah,
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. The divine dance.
yeah.
Mm.
It is beautiful, right?
It
When
is.
he
Well, I
first
mean, that's
yeah,
life is the dance, right? That's one of the biggest metaphors for life. Just this cosmic dance, that interplay between all of these exchanges and yeah,
yeah,
meetings. And for those of us who are trying to like say there's a lot of coaches already out there, but maybe some of us who are trying to get into it or break into this space or step into what we want to do. We know we're called to like, or it sounds so religious. I don't want to get there, but like, no, it is. It's like this knowing, like you said, you just,
yeah,
when people seek you out naturally throughout your life. That is one of the little nudges from spirit or the universe. Like this is something you should be doing
yeah.
because this is part of your gifting. You know what I mean? This is part
It's
of
definitely a
how you're meant
helping
to show
field.
up.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. It's of
yeah,
service, right?
yeah,
And
yep,
that could be, in medical field, you see it all the time. Nurses always say the same thing. Like I was drawn to it. I got to help
yep,
people.
yep.
Um, but w- I think there's a misconception, and this can go a few ways. We can talk about like the one-on-one, like you said, of coaching, non-judgment versus, and not versus, but with curiosity. What if I think a lot of people are reluctant to step into these, make this step and step into this next life, like take the undertaking. It's hard to be bold when you feel like broken, or when you
Mhm,
feel like you're not worthy enough. Who am I to lead others?
mhm,
Even though they seek me out, and I know I have something of value to offer, something to say, I've been through a lot that can shine light for a lot of
mhm,
others, but yet I feel like I'm not there, or I'm not worthy, I guess, in sense, to lead others or to guide others. Like, what would
mhm.
you say to that? How have you gone through those kind of seasons? Or have you? Like, is this
I'm
just
human.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm confident and I'm human. I still
Yeah.
have my doubts and have to coach myself into showing up every day too. Yeah.
Yeah. Every day.
Um, well, first of all, how you presented that for the people who feel like that, first of all, I want to say kudos for having that kind of humility. And I want to speak to the humility side of, am I worthy to show up for people like this? And that I want to speak to that first, because one of the things that I've observed in the field is people could come into this and like, I know everything, right? Advice,
Mm.
advice, advice, blah, blah, blah. And that, right, it's
That's a flag almost, right?
it can be really harmful and
Yeah.
damaging. And I can't even say it can be. It is really harmful and damaging, right?
Mhm.
Instead of coming from a position. So for those that are like feeling that hesitance, right? First of all, I just want to honor the fact that you care enough
Mhm.
to question, right? So there's that. Now I'm going to speak to the other side of that, the fear side of it, right? And first of all, I want to, none of us are broken, right? I appreciate you using that word, because I think a lot of us need to be reminded that where
Yeah,
we feel
especially
broken,
people like who grow up in church culture. It's all steeped in shame, guilt, and
it's,
fear, right? So
yeah,
it's a deprogramming in essence. We don't come into the world like this original sin idea. Like we're
yeah.
not broken. So yeah, speak to that. So how would you
It doesn't even
reframe
have to
that?
be church culture, right? Look at
Yeah,
this world, right? If you don't have a
yeah,
bank account that looks like this and drive a car like that, what's wrong
exactly.
with you? You must
Yeah,
be fill in the blank, broken,
yeah.
right? Like the thing is and this is another reason I love coaching so much. When people get to know the core of who they are, right? You don't have to follow this is the rebel in me, but you don't have to follow the rules. You follow your path, right?
Yeah.
But okay, let me get off that. Coming back to your question, when people are questioning themselves in that, I would offer for them to be curious. What is drawing you to this field? What is that urge welling up in you that is asking you to take a look and say, maybe this is for me to do, right?
Yeah.
And generally coaches either find themselves being really helpful, right? Or wanting to help, or people coming to them to be a helper, right? Like there is
It's who you are, right?
that is who you are.
Yeah.
And then to start to be curious and explore from there. Like again, back to what we were saying earlier, why is this thing happening in my life, and what can I do with this? What do I want to do with this? Right?
Mm.
Some people, I met this wonderful woman a few years ago. She was a research scientist, And I met her through this speaking course. We were having a side conversation, and this is probably, I don't know, maybe some months before I actually officially launched Undimmed. And she was asking me about coaching. And as I was talking to her, she's like, "Oh my God, I didn't even realize that the way I show up with these other scientists, that I've been coaching them. I think I'm going to
Mm.
start a side business here, right? Of officially coaching, because this field is changing so rapidly." And she was explaining like some of the dynamics of the stress and pressure that these scientists were going through. We had this beautiful conversation, and then she emails me like a month later, and she's like, "I did it. I'm in this, right?" So, and she followed it. We talked about like what avenues she could do, so she already innately was a really great listener and like held a really great position of not being judgmental and not making assumptions and really speaking to what each person was going through. So she already like had the format down. But I'm just saying that like she didn't know if she really should step into that either.
Yeah.
And she just had the realization and said, "Oh, this is happening. Let me figure out how to move forward with this." There's 1,000 different paths on how to become a
Yeah.
coach. You can go through
And that's
formal training, you
everyone's
can go through
experience
informal
is
training.
unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Everything has value, right? Like like don't question, don't undermine what your contribution will be. You may not know what it is in the moment, and that's for most of us. Like this whole season of coming out of like my divorce. I've this is all fresh for me because I know
yeah,
I've had these urges for years, but how do I apply them? And literally a lot of the time, it's just step by step until you get one thing unravels another thing. You know, one
yeah,
string like pulls into another. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. I mean, when I found that spiritual life coaching school out here, it happened because I had this really deep urge to leave Colorado. And it was weird to me because I was really happy. I actually, on the outside looking in, I had a really great life. I had my home there. I had a great job. I had great friends, community, right? Colorado air, like it was amazing. It's something in me is like it's time to move. And I was actually looking for grad schools more than anything. And I kept looking at the East Coast because I'd originally expected to move out to the East Coast. Like life didn't give up on me. It finally got me out here. Um, but what happened, I was working at the prison, and one of my colleagues, she like stops at the corner one day in between the kids going through the classes, and she pulls out this little book, and I see her like read it, and I see her like do this, and then she like scurries off, and I really admired her, right? I was developing a relationship with her, so I called her, like called down the hallway to her, and I was like, "Hey, what are you reading?" And that's another conversation, but she almost didn't let me read the book at first. And I said, "What is it?" So I look at the book. I was like, read a chapter of it, or it was a book. It was a day by day affirmation.
Okay.
I was like, "Oh my God, this person speaks like I speak." Like I felt this
Mm.
kinship all of a sudden.
Yes, I know exactly
Yeah.
what you mean.
And I was like, "Who is she?" And so we had a conversation. And then I go back and look, and the internet wasn't as robust as it is now, right? But um, so I go and I like start doing my research. I go to the bookstore because that was a better place to go at that time. I'm looking up her books. And I like see that she had just launched like these weekend seminars, and she had just
Mm.
launched that year. I think was the first year of the spiritual life coaching program. And so I went to a weekend seminar and then ended up going the next year.
Hmm.
So like following the path, like I
Just
knew
the
I
book
needed to
you
make
asked
moves.
about that it led you to, yeah.
Yeah,
That's how it
yeah,
works though, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
I love that, I love that.
yeah.
Mm.
It's
Magic, right? It's just the way it unfolds, it's literally that, like, and if you
it
can
is.
tune into that frequency, that flow in your daily life, if you put in the work and you try to remain open and mindful and aware,
Yeah,
conscious, that can be your reality. That, and it's not just little things like these big it shows up in your finances and in your relationships and like, yeah, your joys, your creativity, your passions, like,
yeah,
oh, mm,
yeah.
I love that.
So Dave,
uh
I'm
yeah,
curious for you, because I'm like you said, this is new to you, right?
yeah.
So what urges are coming up in you that are saying that the light bulb is getting brighter and you're like, this is where I'm going.
So I was raised in the church, which I am unpacking a lot of shit with right now. Like, you think you deal with stuff, you leave a culture, but you forget the residue. You know what I mean? And like, God, like it is just such a mind fuck coming from that because it's ultra. It's based with you need to be of service, right? That's the altruistic way, the Christ-like mentality. But yet then in the actual church community, it's all hypocrisy and like, keeping up appearances, and you can't be broken. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's no room for humanity or messy or for the roughness, like you said, like the reality of who we are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it's this ideal that's projected that's unattainable. So for years I've known I've been a light in other people's lives. I know I've been a guiding force, and people seek me out for that, that validation and inspiration and like how to guide them. But I never knew how to step into that or when
Yeah.
to. And so that was one of my biggest things back in 2020. Like I tried to do something, but I wasn't in the right place. You know what I mean? I had to put a lot of things in order,
Mhm.
but that's how it started. And one thing, like you were saying, that I read a book, I got this one Oracle deck, and then I saw this one woman in Casadega, and just these little experiences have led me to this point where I know now that I am meant to help others, to
Yeah.
connect others with themselves, to
Yeah.
connect others with people that can increase their journey, expand their experience on this earth,
Yeah.
to live more fully, to live more deliciously,
Yeah.
embrace who they are, their authentic natures. Because when we are our most authentic selves, that light reverberates, it resonates, and it lights others, right?
Everybody
And
benefits. Yeah.
everything raises,
Yeah.
the collective raises.
Except the man, but that's another story.
We'll get into that,
We'll get
right?
into that.
But so yeah, I know now, like I am meant to do something. I've there's been a coming to Jesus. See, it's still in my head, all these all this culture.
That's a
But
real helpful phrase though, by the way. I
right.
I love come to Jesus moments.
Right. But yeah, the aha moment, like I've honored is what it is. I've finally committed to it, and I've honored that it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
I dealt with my fear to the point of I know what I should be doing, so it is time to embrace it and heed the call. I always think of
Yeah.
that judgment card in the tarot deck,
Yeah.
like it's rising to the call. Like, are you going to honor it, or uh, it's that rebirth, that regeneration, the resurrection, if you will, the
Yeah.
phoenix moment. So that's where I'm at now. I've been building, and those thoughts of like, am I enough? Like is It's the doubts, right? It because I'm stepping out. I'm doing the work. I'm showing up. But
Yeah.
it's funny how that voice always is there in the background, that saboteur, you know?
Yeah.
So
I really applaud you in taking the steps and then I hearing that every little risk along the way and then kind of leveling off and then phew, and then taking another step and phew,
a sigh.
right?
Yes, yes. But that's what it's felt like. It's like
Yeah.
this is an adventure. It's a journey, but it's also terrifying, and it's intense, and it's work. It's a lot of
It's a lot of
effort.
work.
And I think
Yeah.
that's why most of us don't do stuff. We don't
Yeah.
want to. It's hard. Like it's easier just
I just bought this weekend and then the other side of that.
period. Two
Yeah.
sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
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 You can be courageous and know what's right, but to actually do what's right, or do what's right for you rather in this situation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot, but I want to encourage anyone listening right now. Like, if you're feeling any inkling of there's more, you should be doing more. And that doesn't have to be like coaching. It can be like you're an artist and you're just afraid to step out into this,
Tackle
or,
too. Yeah.
writing. If you got something to say, an experience you want to share, or you think you got a book in you, like listen to that. That's the
Yeah.
universe nudging and prodding you. Don't worry how you'll get there. Just start exploring. Be curious,
No,
right? Don't be
yeah.
judgmental.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna what do you think about this statement that some of the best healers in this world are the most creative people? They're in the creative fields,
I think healing and
right? Like,
creativity are one and the same.
yeah,
Like healing is regeneration, is creation, like a recreation, right?
yeah,
So like a wound that's closing, that's new life, new skin, new. Same thing with creation. Like if you're putting art, it can be cathartic and healing in that. Art is
yeah.
most often healing. Like we get some of the best art from the darkest times. I always think of comedians.
I love. I was gonna go there.
I
Go, go,
love
go. I want to
comedy.
hear.
I think
Yeah, me
comedy
too.
is one of the highest art forms to like one, because there is no quicker way to raise the vibration of a room instantly. Like if
Yeah.
you want to raise your vibration, laugh.
Yeah.
Like think of all those times you've had these experiences where like it's just really tense and it's really awkward in a room and
Yep.
someone says something off colored or just weirdly timed and everyone breaks. It
Yep.
is instantaneous. And it's a transmutation is really what it is, right?
Yep.
Like for comics to get on stage, and comics all have usually one thing, like look at all the great comics, like tragic, wounds and past lives, like Chris
Pain.
Farley's and like, yeah,
Yep.
like, but to take our pain and our awkward and our uncomfortable and to transmute that into an energetic level where it brings light and joy to others, as well as a relation
Yeah.
and illumination to our own, because it's a mirror for
Yep.
us, Oh, that's why the Greeks liked it, comedy and drama. It's what moves us. It's the yin and
Yep.
yang.
You're literally taking the words out of my mouth.
God, it's
Like,
just, I love
yeah.
it.
I know you and I are just getting to know each other, but comedy's like that's my jam. I
Oh,
go see live comedy at least once a month. I try to go more, just
would you say it's
depending.
healing for you, or like what
Oh,
does it do for you? What's it provide for you?
oh,
Obviously, the
it is a
laughter makes you feel
salve
better.
for my soul, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
speaks
Even
of that's
and it's anywhere from like local comics that are just trying
yeah,
to figure themselves out. Like I'll travel to go watch people just trying to figure it out, to international folks that like I'll follow them. Like there's a few comics that the people who can really work with the crowd, like have
yeah.
their
It's a
set,
gifting,
but
right?
like
Yeah,
work with the crowd and have a brand new show every single time.
yeah.
Like that trend really, that I at least that I noticed, it really started taking off in like the last, I don't know, 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll follow those people around. I'm just like, wow, it's so brave and it's so cool, and how they can just connect. And to echo your point, watching people take people to like really tense, dark, challenging places, and
You're
then hit
talking
that
like,
punchline, like
yeah.
that in itself is healing. It's like, oh,
It
okay,
is because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
relatable, and then you see yourself in them. But it's cathartic, and I think it's powerful. And if you see they can do that through
yeah.
their lens, how do you apply it to your life? And just it makes us, I think, stronger.
So my
Laughter
friend,
provides strength and resilience.
as you hop into coaching, that is often what you're doing.
Yeah. How so?
You're
I
taking
think I know what
you're
you're saying,
taking
but
you're taking people, right? You are, as a coach, we stand in a position of being a trusted, safe guide, for lack of a better way, at least a Sherpa, right? Like whatever
yeah,
term you want to put, like we are overseeing this thing, and we're helping that person to go in places that we either don't make the time for, don't feel comfortable going. Like there's something that doesn't allow us to get to the thing that we really need to know within ourselves,
hmm,
right? Like the wisdom of just being quiet and still, right? To have somebody like a coach is there to be non-judgmental, hold the
yeah,
space,
which is rare
so
for a lot of
so a
us
person
too.
can
Like,
go there, right?
yeah,
And then once you get there, to have somebody like either cheer you or support you or smile. Sometimes you might end up crying with the client, like
yeah,
whatever is appropriate, but to like take them there, and then be the person to be like, all right, great job, you got there. We're back here now, right? Like
yeah,
that. There, it is such an amazing process. Like it's an amazing process to go through. I have coaches, right? When my coaches are able to take me there, when I go there and I come back, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. Comedians do that for me,
yeah.
yeah,
It makes me think of like just when I used to teach at an academic level, I learn the most when I'm teaching, just because as the exchange, like, tell me more about this. You have to rewire your brain and think around the topic in a different way to approach it in a different
yeah,
light.
yeah.
And you had said something, I think we were just talking a bit ago where you're saying when you're coaching, part of the whole like showing like you got to be your own first coach, right? And you had said something along the lines
First
of
client, yep,
what, yeah, first client, whatever you're dealing with, you're gonna find that in your clients they're coming in with the same stuff that you've gone through recently or you're
yeah,
going through currently. And it's like because it's that energy, right? Like that law of attraction, would you say? What is it, like our wounds resonate with others? Like explain that a bit more.
I mean, can I say, I mean, it is the law of attraction. um I think how coaches, do I want to put it in, I know I've experienced
Mm,
and I've
I love that.
observed
I love that.
that
I know.
as we are learning, as we're going, right, there's that saying, the student will appear,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, right?
The
Or the
teacher
teacher
will
will
appear when the student's
appear
ready.
when the student is ready.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, the teacher has to go through preparation too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's there's all these processes that happen in the same time.
You can't guide if you haven't been there. Yeah.
Right. We are learning as humans all the time. First of all, none of us has this stuff figured out, right?
Period.
I don't know
Period.
about you, Dave, but as soon as you get it figured out, I mean, last
There's
week was
another level.
positive for all of us,
New
right?
angle. Yeah.
I had it figured out and like that, yeah. And then I was like, I don't really have anything figured out. And now I'm on the other side of it, and I'm like, I've got it figured out. So we're learning as we're teaching, right? And we're being taught as we're learning.
Yeah.
Right? That is wisdom in
Beautiful.
coaching. Yeah.
No, that's how wisdom works.
Yeah.
And there's such a beauty in that dynamic too. Like, I'm here because of those who have gone before me, and and I perpetuate that and offer that forward to those that are coming after.
Yeah.
I love that continuity.
When you were asking earlier, like going back maybe 20 minutes ago about folks feeling some kind of way about stepping into this, there are formal programs that people can go through and learn the techniques, right? And if they serve, and I recommend them for a lot of people, right? Like we all need those reminders of how to show up without interrupting. And it's difficult as a human being to show up non-judgmentally and not have an agenda. It's one of the most challenging things about showing up in any session, or even just showing up in this world and with friends, right? It's a perpetual challenge. How do I show up, even in this conversation, just being present without an agenda, right? Just trying to be here with you. For people, like the distinction, say with executive coaching, for example, versus this coaching, right? More in the life category, transformation coaching, whatever coaching you end up labeling or stepping into for yourself. It is the learning as you're going. It is the having the discipline of understanding what you don't understand and learning as you're going, understanding what you need to be able to show up powerfully for yourself and show up powerfully for those clients, seeing where your deficits are, not to judge yourself, but to be like, ooh, if I don't work on this, this is not only harmful to me, but it's harmful to the people that are showing up in my life.
Yeah.
It's like that constant dance. Or if you're going into executive coaching, there is a process to like learn. And the parallel actually is in executive coaching often. That's really based on life experience too. Like not all executive coaches went to a coaching class. These are retired executives that are coming back and sharing their wisdom with people about how to go down whatever path that they wanted to go down.
The trail they blazed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's often most of us.
Yeah.
It's the unbeaten, the off the beaten path kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, unbeaten what? It got weird.
Well, speaking of beatings,
segue.
Well, if it's into coaching, right? Really powerful coaching. I just want to warn coaches, and I put warn in like silly little air quotes, right? Because it's just a heads up for people who are stepping into coaching, and for people who are stepping into being coached, right? Be prepared. It's work. Yeah. Like it is. This is not just a come and put a hat on, at least not for me. Like maybe if I was an executive coach and I could put my, hat on the door at the end of the night and step away, maybe, probably not me, but like, I'm just speaking to my own personality. But, when you're doing performance coaching, that's a little bit more of a 9-to-5 thing. But when you're dealing with people's innards and their being and how they're showing up in this world, it behooves us that we are back to the, I am my first client, that we're doing the work all of the time too, right?
Yeah.
And as we experienced, you and I and a few of our friends, leveling up is some hard shit.
It
right?
is.
It takes work. It takes.
But if you're feeling that desire, if you're feeling that draw, then you honor it, because it means you're ready. There's time. It's time. Everything happens in its time for its purpose, right? And there's no pressure. Like it will happen when it should. Everything in nature, takes the time it takes, and everying gets done. It's just, that's the way it works. So listen to that.
I haven't really thought this through, but I think that a really good rule of thumb is if a person's considering this and they're up for doing the work, all of the celebration and all of the ickiness that comes along with like evolving and leveling up in our lives, then you're ready for it. If you're finding some hesitation, then explore what the hesitation is, right? So there is something about having like inner stability within ourselves and consistency in that, right? That
Mm.
that we can trust ourselves to go through these things and that we will do the work. There's been times I know how to balance it. I know that I've had times where I'm like, I do I show up for clients when I'm in this like
Yeah.
this thing going on in my life? And there's times where I'm like, absolutely, they need to see the humanity in me of going through a really rough
It's
week
hard to be vulnerable,
and how
isn't
to
it?
show up. And then there's other times where I'm like, I'm not my best self in this, right? And rescheduling, and it's like that. This is like it's not just a typical 9 to 5. It is
It's a
having that
different
inner
totally.
wisdom of how we're showing up. That if people are willing to do that work
Hmm.
and do that like that constant self evaluation, which turns out to be fun and exciting at some point, but it can be a little maddening,
No, no. And I
right?
don't want, we don't want to scare everyone.
Yeah,
Like, there is, it's worthwhile for a
you might want to
reason.
scare a few people away, Dave.
Maybe. But it's the law of balance, right? And like yin and yang, you don't know one side without knowing the depth of the other. As
Yeah,
above, so below. The tree goes up as much as it goes down. And so
yeah,
like you can't experience those deeper levels of love and passion and excitement and fulfillment that you want without mining and plumbing the deeper depths of muck and gross and nasty. And again, this isn't to deter you, but it's to encourage you that it can be done and it is
yeah,
worth being done, because it's so much better on the other side. And there isn't just one side. Like it's levels and levels and expansion. Oh,
yeah.
I'm very romantic with this, but
You are very romantic with it.
then I
Yeah,
get in the
yeah,
valley and I'm like,
yeah,
wait.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. You,
This, yeah,
I,
go for it.
yeah. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I think you're a transformation coach, Dave. Like as I hear you talk, like
I,
when you use words
I,
like muck and yuck and the depths and all of that, right? Like I just want to throw that out there. And for people who are listening and think they want to go into coaching or they're considering it, listen to how you speak,
yeah,
right? Listen to what's catching your own attention, what your own life experience is, right? That is likely the thing that you, our friends out there in podcast land, are considering, right?
yeah,
These
on the
things that
fence
are
about
coming out you and experiencing, and because there's relationship coaches, there's couples coaches, there's singles coaches. And I was on this website the other day and I was looking at all of the different modalities of people showing up for all of these populations that normally didn't get like special attention or didn't even have anybody available to them, right?
Hmm.
That it was always just like, for the people who look like me
Yes,
from
yeah,
middle class America,
yeah,
to see all of these modalities coming out and specialties, like pay attention.
yeah.
There's millions of people out here that need somebody to be in a space with them
I
and
love
let them be authentic without having to prove themselves to you or anyone else, that they can just come out and let their most beautiful and ugly selves out in those moments and then take what they need from that session and go out into the world and work with it.
I love that. Actually a great way to end. That's beautiful. Like just holding space, you providing space with your experience is enough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Alone on that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this more than I realized. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you too, Dave.
This was wonderful. You are a light. And we were talking about, we'll probably make this a few episodes, right? Like of this topic.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to like,
Oh, there's so much more to this
yeah,
than a 55-minute conversation.
yeah.
I imagine after we get done with this conversation, I know me.
You're passionate about
I'm
that.
usually on a
I love
2 minute,
it.
two
I
hour,
see
2 week
it.
delay, and I'll be like, "Oh, Dave, let's go talk about this next." Yeah,
Perfect. We'll
yeah,
do it. Put it in the
yeah,
hopper, right?
yeah,
Okay. We'll end here. I hope you enjoyed this. If one, I want to say comment below because I want to hear who your favorite
yeah,
comedians are.
yeah,
Because I want some ideas. I love that. And then also, have you been considering this? Like, is this something that have you been on the fence about, or yeah, give us some feedback. I'd love to hear where everyone's at. So
I'd love to hear where people feel excited, where they feel resistance,
yeah,
or what they've experienced out there. What roadblocks have they experienced either in pursuing being a coach or even trying to find a coach, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like, I will say one of the things that I'm excited about with Treehouse is we already know the long term vision of this is there's going to be many branches, and ideally that somebody can come to the treehouse and find their
Yes.
person that can help them in that moment with the thing that they're looking to become aware of and resolve or work through or grow
Exactly.
or whatever. So I would love to hear what information we need to know, so as we're growing this, we can, if you haven't already found your people out there, that we
What do
can
you love?
find your people, so you've got your people.
And know that we're available for you too. If you want to work, if something resonates or you're drawn to, or you're again curious about, know that we're here. That's why we're doing this. So
Yep.
yeah, drop us a line, seek us out. We're here for you. Hope you have a good
Creating the
one.
love.
It was good. So good seeing you. Be
Yes,
well.
you too. All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Dave. Bye.
Thanks for joining us in the Treehouse today. If you enjoyed your time here, can you do us one little favor and send this episode over to someone else who might need to hear it? We love ratings, reviews, and recommendations. We appreciate you so much. Have a gorgeous day.